Hello and welcome down to my head. It's Friday, the 27th. I haven't looked at a clock today yet.
We have one plan that we think might work. We have discussed Plan Z with the Japanese authorities, and they agree it is the best of our alternative plans. Is that correct?
So let's go ahead and get into our first and only news story. Sort of. Our first and only news story is about the sequel that we knew was coming out to Pacific Rim. That's great. However, the more important news that we received today was the fact that there's going to be an animated film. I've already posted about this in Murph the Fat Kid on the group on Facebook, but also I'm going to put a link down here. So that's very exciting because if anything, hopefully we'll get to see more of the world. It'll get fleshed out some more. It'll be able to go into more detail, and hopefully we'll get multiple seasons out of it because the movie's not till 2017. So that's 4 years from now. That could be 3 seasons worth of animated Jaegers. Hopefully they're long seasons.
New York, 1997.
The second story I have, kind of a weird thing. I pulled this up because it was DieselPunk. And I was like, okay, I'm curious now, what is DieselPunk? So I end up going to Google, typing in DieselPunk, pulling up the Wikipedia page, and it said, and I quote, DieselPunk is a genre that combines the aesthetics of diesel-based technology influenced by the interperiod of the 1950s with the future of postmodern technology. First coined by a 2001 game designer, Lewis Pollock, as to describe his role-playing game Children of the Sun. Up to this point, really, it was all well and good. I mean, we had steampunk, cyberpunk, those have been around for a while. I guess dieselpunk came around. Millennium, sure, that's great. These are all great subgenres. But really, if you want to look at it, they kind of relate back to pulp genre. And I'll put a link down here that explains where the pulp genre comes from. But essentially, it used to be all those stories in the 1920s and the 1930s that had come out on cheap paper that everyone loved to read. So, you know, really, if we're looking at all the punks, we're really just looking at all the subgenres of pulp. And it's just something that we really need to remember as we progress, because Indiana Jones, Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, all of those are really pulp films, but then at the same time they also fit into a very sub-genre. So those are good things to remember.
The gateway to the world of science fiction on the internet. Catch it on the World Wide Web. The Sci-Fi Channel welcomes you to the edge.
Let's talk Dominion! That's right, I watched the new episode this morning. This is my commentary on what I think's going on, and this is what I'd like to point out about it. There will be some spoilers, sort of, just about the scenes that you'll see. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, you should probably wait to watch this episode. First off, we find out Anthony Stewart Head's character is a TV evangelical preacher before the fall of humanity. So what that means is he says this, he knows the psychology of religion. He knows how to make it work, how not to make it work. And he's trying to drive humanity in a way that help it survive and help him survive through giving him power and giving Vega power. It's an interesting concept. It's certainly not a new archetype. It's not an old archetype. It's what I'd like to call a classic archetype. There's always been villains like that. Lex Luthor. Half of all your villains really feel like they need to do this for their own good, for everyone's own good. Asmodeus from Watchmen, he did the same thing for the same reason. So, you know, it was an interesting backstory, a quick little thing. He's talking to the main character, so it was nice.
Let me go, Charlie. Let me go.
We also get to see briefly the Angels during their downtime, which is interesting because, like I said before, I called them hedonists. They really are. That's what it is. It's what they shows them. I mean, Gabriel walks out and they just start fornicating like they're animals. So it's once again, you really see how they're just enjoying their physical corporal form compared to just being whispering spirits out in the middle of nothing ether. So it's good to see that aspect. You see a lot more Bible themes in this episode, just kind of nice. Yeah, I mean, that's really the big thing, is you see a lot more Bible themes in this, especially with the Gabriel parts. There is a fight in this episode. It's really kind of strange because the fight happens and it's just sort of all over the place. First they're in a kitchen, or first they're in a hallway, and then they're in this other room, then they're in another hallway that's clearly a side hallway where all the servants use, then they're in a kitchen. So really, it's interesting to see all the places they take this fight until they finally end it. It's interesting because you watch him fight the angel and you realize that there's not a lot he can do because this angel's countering him every way. But then later on you find out that he was stronger than what she thought he would be, which means something. Maybe not just the tattoos are not just there to help him by giving him information, but rather they're there. They also empower him a little bit. That's nice to see. That's great to see. Another really nice thing to see, and we haven't really seen this, I don't think, at least not what I've watched from Sci-Fi for a while, if at all, actually. But you see, there's a sex scene. There's a sex scene, and at one point she just completely drops her robe. You see full naked from behind. You can see full body shot, and then later on there's a very, very tasteful entangling of them both nude, and it doesn't show anything, but at the same time it shows them that they're lying there naked against one another. It's a nice touch, certainly. It's more than I expected. They really took this Bible theme show. They took it the extra distance with the nakedness and the sex, and it just gives it sort of this cardinal element to it that helps to, that really, it's what lives. It's part of the morality tale and what drives a Bible story to be a Bible story. So it's nice to see that.
Are you kidding, Marge? I loved these things when I was a kid. I mean, look at this. Takes me right back to when I was a child.
The next chapter in the guidebook's out. I haven't read that. I'm probably gonna read that later. So that's certainly something I'm gonna look forward to later today. But yeah, I mean, this is just something that it's a solid second episode. I'm excited to see the third episode, especially considering the outcome at the very end of the second one. But really, you should, by the third episode, they should try to hit the stride that they're going to have. That way, watching the first three episodes of the show, that's what I try to do. That's what really makes the show have its stride. First three episodes, hit your stride, and you go into the major storyline that's longer. So, but yeah, keep checking in. We'll be back Monday.